Hey everybody, welcome back to Solo Performance Solutions. The biggest recent announcement that I saw that's going to make a big difference in Q4 enforcement compliance cases is the announcement by the CPSC. We'll include the link to it here. Long story short, years and years and years of Amazon trying to say we're not liable for the safety of products on our platform because we are just a platform, because we are just a marketplace, because we don't produce and market these products. That isn't really holding water anymore. And even though enforcement is slow and it takes years for these things to unfold, the quick sense that we get so far is that Amazon's already looking to take down certain listings and asking for compliance documentation. And as you and I have seen the last couple of weeks, they seem to be asking for documents that a lot of brand owners don't have, or they go to their lab or their manufacturer for those documents. And their manufacturer just says,
Let's just back this up a little because you've kind of put a whole lot of separate information all together
go through the
in one
announcement.
statement. Well, so first of all, it's not just an announcement, it's a decision and order.
Yes.
So it's not that the CPSC just decided to do this. Like there was a legal case involved and this was their final decision and order, and it was unanimous individually. Yes. It's also not the first time that a court or government body has decided that Amazon is liable for the safety of the products on their platform. We've seen this before, and Amazon is already appealing the decision. Just as an aside, find it kind of interesting that customers have so much trust in Amazon when Amazon is actively telling courts that it doesn't believe that it should have any responsibility to protect the safety of their customers.
But you're going to have to get over that.
Hi, Amazon PR.
You're going to have to get over that quickly because that trust is not ebbing.
No, I know. But what we've seen in the past when these sorts of decisions have been made, even when Amazon immediately appeals them, is that reactionary phase where there is an uptick in the enforcement. There isn't necessarily an improvement in the quality of the enforcement, but we do always see an uptick in enforcement. And I believe part of the reason we've been seeing an uptick in enforcement this year was in anticipation of this decision and any decisions going forward. So I think we are going to see even more enforcement for compliance and even more documentation requests. And we're also going to see an improvement, at least in Amazon verifying safety testing. We're already seeing that they are actually contacting labs and confirming that the safety testing is real. We've already heard from a few people whose manufacturers gave them fake safety testing. And are now suspended because Amazon thinks they committed fraud because they unknowingly did.
It's not just a decision. I think more legit brands are getting better at reporting competitors who have crappy, unsafe products.
I think Amazon's under a lot of scrutiny from a lot of different government agencies, and it makes it easier for them if they can say, like, well, we suspended all of these people that were doing these bad things, so it's not like we're not doing anything.
And honestly, I think that's one reason why they're finally paying more attention to abuse reporting. I mean, half of it is that sellers have gotten better at the evidence they present, but Amazon's taking more seriously because those are easy cases. Like, oh, these products don't have the right compliance documents. We can take them down.
And I also think that in anticipation of this decision, or at least reading the tea leaves of where things are going with government agencies, I think that's also why we're seeing Amazon not accepting plans of action for a lot of compliance related issues and only accepting a dispute. So they're only accepting proof that you didn't sell a restricted product or an illegal product on the marketplace. They're not accepting an appeal saying you'll never do it again, which would make sense if they're concerned that they are going to be held liable at some point for the safety and the legality of the product sold on their marketplace. I think that we're going to see greater enforcement around product recalls too. Up until now, Amazon didn't even really have an internal SOP to handle product recalls until a couple of years ago, which is
did.
Not for the inventory. I had that confirmed by a few people.
They did have a process for recalls, but it was back when I was where I worked on some of those myself.
Right, but none of it was ever actually actioned. So if there was a product recall, they wouldn't necessarily remove all inventory from all sellers, which is why we had a number of sellers come to us not able to reinstate a product after a recall because some other seller had inventory in FBA that was blocking them from reinstatement. Yeah. So I think now that Amazon is being pushed by the CPSC to better handle recalls publicly, I think that they're going to have to tighten up the procedures internally for that. But I also think that it is going to be more difficult to get things reinstated after a product recall, because I think there's a chance that they may actually just enforce against the entire account if you have a product recall.
Yeah. I mean, the trend from earlier this year was, oh, you've got restricted products that you listed. We're taking your whole account away. We're not sure we can trust you to follow the rules, to know the rules. And we don't want to do this with you on an ASIN by ASIN basis. That's one of the biggest changes of 2024.
Yep.
So now extend that to this. I mean, why would they want you to sell if they think you are going to get them into hot water? They don't want you winging it with some of these kinds of products just because you thought you could make a few bucks doing it. They'd rather remove you and reduce that risk. And are you selling something that no one else sells? Is there a hole punched in their revenue because you disappear? I mean,
I don't even think they look at it at that. I mean, at this point, it's all just a drop in the bucket.
Right.
To them.
I mean, at this point, right. At this point, any category, any type of product, there's somebody out there that can take your place.
Or they just don't even want those products sold on the marketplace anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're going to continue to see greater enforcement. I am still hopeful that maybe we'll start to see an improvement in the quality of that team, but I am not holding my breath based on past experience.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great segue into the second chunk of this podcast, which is part of the problem is going to be legit brands are going to be getting the same copy and paste generic replies to cases, to emails, sometimes to escalations as sellers who never should have registered and never sold in the first place. And maybe that's Amazon using low cost labor.
That's exactly what it is.
Not wanting to train them. Maybe it's also just selfish reasons, like it's easier to treat everyone the same, whether there's
it's not even that they're treating people the same. It's that their teams don't have any decision-making abilities. They're given a decision tree. And if you don't fall squarely within that decision tree, they just say no. Yeah. And a lot of times they've incorrectly flagged a product. So the documentation that they're asking for doesn't exist. And your appeals to them saying that just gets a response back of the same template that you received in the first place, that you need to provide this information in order to get reinstated. But that isn't possible. And so more and more, we just have to escalate those cases. And
it's a dispute.
But they can't handle just, and I see it on the performance side as well. They will only accept a dispute, but they don't know what to do with the dispute.
Yeah, that's the interesting piece.
Like seller performance is looking at a compliance dispute. Seller performance doesn't have any compliance background. So they have no idea if what you've provided with them is proof. They
wouldn't know proof. Product. Yeah, they wouldn't know proof from a yellow bus on Fifth Avenue.
Right. So more and more, these are just having to be escalated unless it is just cut and dry of, oh, yeah, here is my documentation. And even then, a lot of times you send them exactly what they asked for and they still reply back with the same.
No, they don't know.
Response.
They don't have the training.
No, that's the thing. It used to be a higher level team and it no longer is.
But further complicating things is people are still sending POAs, plans of action, because of all the rampant wrong misinformation out there that an appeal is a POA and you're supposed to send a plan of action in that format, which we're still seeing. We're in August, we're heading into Q4, we're heading into September. I still see people misunderstanding these basic concepts, or they hire some template mill that their template is in the POA format. They haven't modified it. They don't understand the process. They don't understand how that harms more than helps. So that's going to make it even more likely that you're going to get a copy and paste generic denial. And then even farther beyond that, you're going to be calling account health or support or whoever, and they're going to be more confused because they're going to see your plan of action.
Well, and account health doesn't always even have access to compliance cases. So they also tend to send people down a completely wrong path.
Oh, I know. It's already not a great system, not a great appeals path, but you don't want to further complicate it by sending in a plan of action like, we're sorry, we didn't realize we needed this document. We have attached this document, but we don't understand why you need this document. And that's under root causes. And then there's all these like, in the future, we will keep all documentation. It's all template garbage.
Compliance does not want, they don't even look at plans of action. I try to keep everything as short as possible. This is why the product is compliant. This is the documentation.
Yep.
Reinstate my ASIN.
And you don't want to make it so short that there's no information in it.
No, but all they're looking for is the proof of compliance. They're not looking for any additional information. They just want the proof. Here's the documentation. This is what this product is. This is what it's classified by FDA, EPA, CPSC, whatever. That's it. That's all that they're looking for. And unfortunately, I mean, the issue is that a lot of sellers don't know what they need to be providing as proof, and they don't know what the requirements are for their products. And so that's where they start sending in, and we see this with verification cases as well, right? They don't have what Amazon's asking for, so they just send in anything else they can find, and it usually is not helpful and has no.
We won't give examples now. We've seen some interesting things attached to those appeals. Where it's, why not just throw in a copy of your lease agreement too?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not related to it.
Or like seller metrics or sales figures. Like, none of that is relevant to compliance.
Well, not even that. I'm starting to see legal letters that have nothing to do with the product. It's just like, well, I'm going to go to Amazon Legal. Yeah. Well, what are you going to send them? I'm going to give them a legal letter. What's that going to say? Well, I don't know, but we're working with somebody who says they've sent stuff to legal before and it's worked. For a case like this, I'm not sure they said that. And then I'm just having all these conversations about Amazon Legal, which, why would Amazon Legal have the same compliance training as the product teams, the safety compliance teams?
This actually is very, that leads me to my next point, which is if you are working with a highly regulated product, have an attorney that specializes in that specific area of compliance. So if your product is regulated by the FDA, work with an FDA attorney. If your product is regulated by the EPA, work with an EPA attorney. Don't work with general counsel or some other type of attorney that is like, yeah, I can also do that, because I have seen a lot of very incorrect letters being sent which don't even cite the right government agency or cite the right product type. That's definitely not going to help your case.
It's the same as the appeals that I was reading that were intellectual property focused, required intellectual property legal expertise that were handled by non-IP attorneys, which that's extremely common in the Amazon space. Sellers still seem to avoid the question of, are you an IP attorney? Is your background and focus and expertise in intellectual property? Because I've seen design and patent assessments that were just completely wrong.
Right. I don't think I said this on the podcast. I think I may have said this recently at a conference. But don't just go off what your manufacturer says for compliance. They are very much biased because they want you to buy their product. So make sure you're also working with some type of outside compliance to make sure that your labels are meeting the legal requirements, to make sure that you are making claims that you are allowed to make, because I have seen a number of people where they're like, their manufacturer's compliance department says it's totally fine and it is absolutely illegal. Again, we've seen a number of people get in trouble because their manufacturer faked testing. So also make sure that you're getting your own third-party testing done. I'm certainly not saying that all manufacturers are going to be engaged in this sort of behavior, but why take the risk? Make sure you're getting all of this done yourself.
Why take the risk? Because those are suspensions for full accounts where Amazon basically accuses you of fraud, code of conduct violations.
Well, sure. But I mean, if you want to go that way, you also could kill somebody with your unsafe product.
I know. Well, I'm just focused on like the immediate business impact, even if you only do things out of selfish reasons. Well, one selfish reason is keep your account alive. And right now, they're only taking disputes like, prove us wrong. We took the wrong action. You didn't falsify documentation, or you didn't fail to review your manufacturers or your service providers, or somebody else is handling this for you. And if you can't prove that to us, then you're done. And we're seeing the forums posts. We see things in groups where people, why this, why that? Well, this is why. Amazon's protecting their flank. Amazon cares more about themselves than they do about you. The CPSC isn't going away, and neither is this whole question of Amazon's potential liability for selling these products. And never mind liability for a second. There are consistently news stories about it, which just give Amazon a black eye. Why are you letting such and such seller sell this product? We can see the reviews, or we can see complaints from people posting online story for another time would be, why aren't people, maybe they are doing it and I'm ignorant of it because I'm talking about appeal strategy all the time. Why aren't people on TikTok and Instagram talking about junk they bought on Amazon that was a hazard?
They are.
That's not enough of a thing where we hear about it and see it and it pops up in my YouTube feed all the time. I mean, that'll be coming next. And it's definitely going to be one of the many reasons why Amazon cranks up enforcement, which is already happening. So I hope you didn't entertain any notions of sleeping in Q4 because you're going to be extremely busy. Everybody, but especially you. So no more running off to Asia. You're going to have to just stay in the boring old Eastern time zone because this is not going away. This is every year. I mean, it's kind of like reviews abuse, right? Like it just got tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, whether it was inserts or messaging to buyers or postcards or mailing people directly, whatever it was. Yeah. And now you're kind of at the point where you can't really do anything with the inserts. I mean, they're finally doing it for compliance.
Speaking of not going to Asia, this seems like a good time to mention that I will be speaking at the Cross Border Summit in November in Thailand.
What are the dates for that?
3rd to 5th, I believe. I'll include a link in the notes.
Yep. No, I won't be. I will be right here. So questions on this? Obviously, this is not our last podcast on this topic. We're just kind of gearing up for what we see ahead. We will do our best to provide as much as we can, specific examples and analysis of these different types of cases. But these are the broad strokes. And if you have questions on this, let me know, or preferably let Leah know directly. Thanks for listening.